Hi, this is Dustin Ellis. I am the Scrum Master for Team Scrumptious within Systems Analysis and Development. This is our demo as of Sprint 3 for our attendance management system. Really what I'm going to walk you through in this, it looks similar to the last presentation. We haven't really changed anything on the home screen here, but what we're looking at is the home page for our attendance management community. As I've mentioned in the previous videos, we started out by using the Salesforce development console here. We created all of our objects, and then once those objects were created, we created fields for those objects, and from there we populated each object with roughly 5 to 10 records. Once that was completed, we went into Community Builder and created the user interface for our community, which we're looking at here. In the process, we also went and generated a series of reports, which can be found under this Reports tab, and we imported those reports. We made them publicly accessible and imported them into our Salesforce community. So here in the home page, we're looking at a few different reports that you can hover over and view the statistics for those. This whole simulation is based upon if the user is a professor. Some of the things to explore in the future, which aren't necessarily must-have requirements for this project, are to implement different views for the system, one being for students, one being for the professor, and then of course one being for the overall system administrator. Now those views are not must-have requirements, so we're going to leave those out temporarily until we have all of our other must-have requirements completed. So what are some of the main things that we created during this sprint? Well, first of all, we added a couple reports into here, but before going to those reports, I want to focus on the main tasks that we wanted to accomplish, and those tasks being able to import data. And so, as one of my colleagues recently pointed out, some of the functionality that we really need to implement in the system cannot be done by simply using point and click or drag and drop functionality, or even by Community Builder. And that functionality those are functionalities that really need to be hard-coded using Apex and a Visualforce page into the system. Well, the functionality that we identified after assessing alternatives and conducting an inventory of alternatives was the import data function. Really, there's no way to implement a tab here that says import data and then allow the professor to import and enroll students without first creating a controller using Apex and Java, and then creating a Visualforce page or the view to display that information. So what are we talking about here? Well, I'm going to show you what it is, and then I'll show you the code that we did. First of all, we have two options for importing data. The first option is import students, and what this is going to do is it's going to allow the professor to just import a list of students into the system. Those students will be populated here under the Students tab. However, the first option is not enrolling those students in any particular course within the system, which can be problematic for a teacher because even though the students are imported, the professor would then have to manually go in and enroll each student one at a time. Well, that can be very time intensive, so we wanted to create another import option, which is called import and enroll students. And what this report does, if we click on it, is it allows the professor to create a Excel spreadsheet or a .csv file, and then also create a column called course in course ID, which allows that import to not only add the students within the system, but also automatically enroll them in the course specified within the .csv file. So we're going to keep working on this Visualforce page to add some to style it a little bit better. But really what we're looking at here within the gray box is one Visualforce page, which we've coded. So here within the Visualforce page that we've been able to import into Community Builder, it looks somewhat presentable, but again, we're going to style it a little better in the next sprint. Here we have a list of instructions before you conduct the import, and these instructions are critical to having a successful import. You can see we have 6 steps here. Step 1, it must be a .csv file format. Step 2, you may upload up to 50,000 records, which really we don't have to worry about because really a professor is probably not uploading that many records at a time anyways. Number 3, the headers must match exactly the image below. What I've done is I've added an image into this Visualforce page to show you what the sample data set that the professor should be importing should look like. Let's take a look at that sample data set here. So here we have within our system, the way that we allow professors to import students is these these are really the columns that are of most importance when you want to import students and enroll them in a class. Salutation isn't essential, but we wanted to include that because that's a field within our system. Salutation, first name, last name, mobile, email, description, and course ID. So as a professor, if you want to import students and enroll them in a course, the critical column here is the course ID. Well, as a professor, where do you get that course ID? And the reason we have to do that is because if we want to automatically enroll these students in a course upon import, we have to specify what course we want to enroll them in. And the way Salesforce works is you can't simply put Java programming, for example, in the spreadsheet and then conduct that import. It actually has to go and find the unique ID of that course. Well, what we've done in our system, as a professor, if I, for example, want to import students, a list of students, let's say these 3 students here, and let's go ahead and cancel this stuff out to show you how it works. So I'm a professor. Here's the information that I want to import, but I also see that I need a course ID. Well, where would I go to find that course ID? Well, the course should exist in the system first, naturally, and logically. It should exist before you import students into it. You shouldn't be able to import students into a course that doesn't exist. So this is a good business validation rule. As a professor, I would go to the Classes tab. I would scroll down. We're letting a dashboard load here. But I would scroll down to my course catalog. Let's say we want to import those 3 students into Systems Analysis and Design. We click on that course, and then under the course details on the courses page, there's a field called Course ID. And so as a professor, what I would do is I would copy this Course ID, Systems Analysis and Design, and I would paste it here within my .csv file. Okay, so now this sheet is ready for an import. So really that's all the work that the professor has to do, is populate that column with the course ID, and we'll click Save. So going back to our system, if we want to do that import now that our test data is ready, we can go ahead and upload that .csv file and import that information. So that's number 5 and 6 is what I pretty much just described and walked you through. So what we're going to go ahead and do is click Choose File, and then we are going to choose Test Contact 6. That's the data that we're looking at, and then we will click Import Students and Add to Enrollments. Now when I click this button, 3 things are going to happen. The first thing that's going to happen is all of the data that's being imported and was imported successfully will display below this Visualforce page. The second thing is all of those students that list of students that were imported will be populated under enrollments with the proper course. So we should see the students show up in enrollments enrolled in systems if this is a successful import. We should also see those students added to the students section within the system. So let's go ahead and give that a try and see if it works. And it worked. So if we scroll down, as I promised, the first thing that happened was it shows us all of the student records that were populated within the system. Let's go ahead and go to the second part and make sure that they were added to enrollments. So we'll click Enrollments, and we'll click All. And it's going to show us all of the enrollments that exist within this system for this professor. If we scroll down, we should see, here we go, Jacob Cuckler, James Bond, and Harry Potter were added as record 36, 37, and 38 to Systems Analysis and Design. So that was successful. Now let's make sure that those students were populated within the system. And we know that they were, because if they're populated in enrollments based upon the way the code works, they will be populated in students. And so we see them here, Harry Potter, James Bond, and Jacob Cuckler. If we click on one of these records, it'll bring us to that students page, and it should show that they are enrolled in Systems Analysis and Design. They shouldn't have any days marked present or absent because they haven't been taken in attendance thus far. So those two charts are going to be blank until attendance is taken for this student. We see here the information that they have. We can go in and edit this and add the information, and of course the metrics down here are not going to exist either. So Let's go ahead and verify that that student has been added to Systems Analysis and Design. And to do that, we'll just tab over to the Classes and Attendance section, and we'll view their enrollments. We can see here under that student's enrollment that they have indeed been enrolled in Systems Analysis and Design. So this import was successful. So how did we add this import functionality into the system? Well, I've actually created 2 tutorial videos and uploaded them to YouTube to show exactly how we added this functionality, because it did require some code, and let me go ahead and show you that real quick. So the way to get to our development console, you just go to your name, you go down to development console, and it's going to pull up your, you could consider this like an integrated development environment. And let me go ahead and make this readable. So first of all, we wanted to, don't mind these 2 on the right, but these 2 tabs on the first one and the second one here, this one is our controller. So we created a controller basically that would that has one constructor and one method. The constructor is, of course, right here, import students and add enrollments. We have one method called import CSV file, and then within that method, we are essentially using a try-catch block to create the CSV as string, basically creating the contact and the enrollment object, and then iterating using a for loop, iterating through each record in the .csv file using the comma delimiter, and then adding that and inserting that contact object. So we're basically creating a contact object. Really, the contact object is a student object, and then we are assigning each records field to that object, and then once it's been fully populated, we're inserting that contact object. We're still in the for loop. What we're doing after that is we are adding that contact object that was just inserted, and we're saying let's take it a step further and enroll them in the course that exists within column 6 within the .csv file, which column 6 is the course ID. So we're taking the course ID, we're trimming it using .trim, and we're saying that that is the class's ID, and then we're saying the contact objects, the student object's ID, and assigning that to the enrollment object. So once we have the class ID and the student ID, we can say insert the enrollment object. Finally, we're adding them to a student list and an enrollment list, and we are sending that to the Visualforce page. So here's our Visualforce page. It looks a lot like what we learned in NetApps. Basically what it's doing is it's calling the controller right here, import students and add enrollments, and then it's giving the instructions that I showed you. So here what we're looking at, the list items using an ordered list. If we go back to the community and we look at what that list, what that Visualforce page looks like, that's what we're seeing in the list there. So, and then after that we have the image source, which shows you the example, and then finally down here you can see that it says action import CSV file. That's just calling the method here called import CSV file. So I've created 2 tutorial videos on how to code this for maybe some other groups who might want some guidance in order to create this, because I don't really think that there's a way to implement an import functionality without using code. So that's really where we're at right now. Moving forward, we are going to create some more reports, and then we're also going to have an export data tab here as the final tab. We're going to be removing attendance data and just taking all of that information, which we can look at real quick, and we're migrating that to one tab called reports. And so attendance data here, this is just a series of charts. So all attendance records, absences by class, present by class, or excused by class. If we click on all attendance records, it's going to show this chart, and then it's going to allow you to view that report, which as a professor, basically this is one entire comprehensive sheet showing you all of the information for every single class in every session and every attendance by student. So we have Java programming on the left, student, and then the sessions that student was either marked absent or present, and then it goes all the way down. You can export this to Excel delete the records you don't want, and then you can clean it up if you really want to. But we're going to be working on that in the future on the next sprint. So that's really where we're at right now. Thank you for your feedback.